Hey, Ken.
Hey, is that you, Greg?
Yep. Greg's here.
Huh?
How are you?
How you doing?
Doing great, man.
Good to see you. Let me say hi to everybody else. I'll see any new faces. Oh, Annie. Do I know Annie? Well, hi, Annie. Nice to see you. I just uh, I just left Ralph moments ago, so
Oh,
he'll be coming on.
cool.
He uh, he opened up all of his restaurants today to outside dining.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. I just saw him yesterday.
Yeah, he told me you guys are hanging out. Um, did you get a copy, Greg, of Office of Shaman, or do you need me to hook you up with that?
I didn't get it yet.
Yeah, just come by and just we'll kind of do a rendezvous somewhere. In fact, if you want to float, could do that as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Just while say some more hellos while we're waiting. Hey Annie, how are you? My name's Ken. I don't know if we met. Um, you hear me? I can hear you. Well, I just wanted to say hello. And hey Ralph,
What's up, kid?
what's up?
I made it. Made it
Good.
back.
Yeah, I was telling the other folks that today New Jersey restaurants are allowed to open to outside dining. And Ralph, good job, and you pulled it off with all of your locations.
Yeah, it's I'm telling you, it feels like the first day of school. It's like
Uh,
we're starting all over again.
yeah,
No, it's start, Ken. I'll take it, and
you have to get get the message to clean my lens. I'm looking blurry. Here goes. Gonna get dark for a second.
wow, that made a big difference actually.
Really? Okay.
Bro, now you're like 1080, whatever. You know what I mean?
That's great. Well, that was great tonight. Thanks for making that happen. Everybody had a great time. I left them all over there, and maybe I'll head back there if they're still there in about an hour.
Good. I came back home. I'm done for the day. After I listened to you, I'm done.
Okay. They were all having fun. I couldn't bear dragging them out of there.
Yeah, it's like even my family, like they're ready to just chill and hang out. So I'm like, you know what? My family's been locked up. Like these guys been locked up, whereas like I haven't. So I don't feel the need to kind of be out like that as much. I think, but
Yeah, you can tell the people that were there though. This was really special for them. They were, yeah. People were just excited to be out, and I like the way you did it outside, and nobody was that close, but we can talk to each other.
well, just need them to keep coming back, and life starts again.
Yep. Well, welcome everybody. Hope everybody had a great weekend. This is week 2 of the Office of Shaman Summit. We're going through chapter by chapter. Last week we covered the first 2 tools. The book. Get a copy of the book if you don't have one. You can get it on Amazon. You can in Amazon hard copy. You can get Kindle, Amazon. You could listen to the chapters on soundcloud.com, and we've recorded all the chapters. So if you don't want to read it, you could listen. And if you don't know, I invite you all to download and link into that Slack channel that we set up. Slack is a business platform for keeping up with communications. We have a Slack channel set up just for this. We've posted some questions. We'll continue to do that. Tonight, we're covering the third tool called communication, and it's just something you just got to use. Sounds really, it sounds basic that I'm saying that, but I can tell you from experience that these concepts that we're building are part of your ways that you already think, but the language behind them is new. And because the language behind them is new, it's something that you probably haven't considered before. I can assure you of that. And because of that, trotting out your questions, oh man, you guys, I can tell you from experience, when I first started to get involved in this, I thought I knew, and I sat back and, like I said, locked and loaded. This is wired, ready to go. And then, I didn't ask a question. And finally, when I did, I exposed that I had gaps or holes in the way that I thought about it. So there is really something about the process of trotting it out there and saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Or do I got this right? You will be surprised sometimes that there are some gaps in the way you think about things. So we're going to do communication, but before we get to the tool of communication, just a quick review. We started with programming, the tool of programming, neural programming. And we did that last Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday, we did moving the assemblage point. Even though the chapter is called Changing Point of View, let's get already used to a more encompassing, precise way to think about that. What we're talking about here is way broader than just a point of view. It has to do with really being able to try on a belief set of somebody that you're trying to get along with, trying to figure out what they're saying. So you're actually moving the way you assemble the world to how they assemble the world. Why would you want to do such a thing? Why would you do that? Well, if you're going to talk to them and you want to know what they're saying, then you got to know how they think about things. If you're going to know how they think about things, well, what do they believe? In particular, what do they believe is real? You can do that. I say that a little tongue in cheek, but I know that we Americans in particular, may be true of everybody, but I'll speak from where I have experience, have a singular one way of assembling the world. We all have an assemblage point, but you can have two or three or many or as many as you'd like. You'll have to just at this point, try it for yourself. To see what it is, because these concepts are all experiential. I can sit here all day long and talk to you guys about programming and communication and moving the assemblage point, and it ain't going to mean a damn thing. It's just not going to mean a damn thing. It's like if I sat here and talked to you about sex. You do this, and then he does that, and she does this, and then this is for foreplay. It's going to make, it's not going to make a difference. It's one of those things. Like everything, if you're going to know it, you're going to do it. So anybody have any questions on assemblage point? I'd be really...
Hi, Ken.
Hey, who's that?
Vanessa, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good.
What you got there, kiddo?
So I wanted to, so I know that all of you guys, a couple of you guys are just tuning in and everything, and we do host seminars that go more in depth in what we're talking about. But Ken, I want you to enlighten us your first day to harmony class.
Ooh.
Where you were assembling the world, and where when you got there was a whole set of assemblage points and communications and all that kind of good wordies.
Yeah.
Myself, so you can talk.
Okay. Well, I don't think I was way different than other people in having just one way to assemble the world, except, corporate lawyer, 30 years. I happen to think I was pretty worldly, but nah. If anything, I've learned that I had a pretty provincial, narrow, singular way to look at it. And then Vanessa's asking me the question of what happened my first day when I tracked down to Mexico, got off a plane for a class called a harmony class, which is really a class about, we'll get to that in the second half of the book. These tools all connect with a function at the second half of the book. So the tools are things we do to release energy governed by function. So here I am in this class called harmony class, and I get off, and like the first thing that I noticed is I was the only guy in the class, which didn't seem to be too strange at first, except maybe it does raise a question about, what was that about? And I don't know if Vanessa's thinking about one particular experience, but I'll tell you that maybe between my first day and my second day, we had a shared bathroom. And there I am, shaven and not giving a shit about other people. And so I leave my shave clippings in the sink. Well, I got a talking to. From some of the women there that didn't think that was a respectful thing to do. And so what do you think I did? Do you think I came clean? Nah, I argued my point.
Wait. So what's coming clean though?
Well, coming clean, like, yeah, that was respectful. That was disrespectful. No, I dug my heels in.
Why didn't you think it was respectful?
Why did I think it was?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that I'd say I thought it was respectful. I think it was more that I didn't think it was disrespectful, because it was like I thought I was being attacked. I always thought communication. It always seemed to me when somebody was saying something to me that I thought was critical. Remember, an emphasis on I thought, that there was some sort of attack going on. There was some sort of confrontation. I'd never considered that maybe people are trying to make a point to me. And there was most definitely on that morning a point being made, and one which I'll tell you right up front. It was that class for me, not only that first day, had a lot to do with how I view and how I treat women. And it makes a lot of sense in retrospect that the very first time I was down to Mexico, it was me and a class full of women.
Yeah, and it's almost like the other was trying to teach you something there.
Yeah. What do they say that, you're going to learn your lessons one way or the other. I'm not sure that's actually true, Paul, but I think what you're saying, and I can identify with it. My life has been, the things that come up, especially the things that don't work so well, all seem to be there as like, hey, pay attention to this.
Well, so it's safe to say, Ken, that you were like, even though that you didn't know that you were communicating that, you would see, even though that you wouldn't like accept or see how you were probably not respecting women and making like, they didn't like, and you not being like taking responsibility, or, you are already responsible that you didn't clean up after yourself. But you were like, oh, I'm just special and I don't have to do that sort of thing. So it's safe to say that that's how you have been communicating on a like surface. And John, you were there. What did like? Is it making sense here? Like,
I'm sure he was equally as impressed as the ladies, but I can hear what he has.
I don't know.
I was just totally amused.
Yeah, I figured, right? Because he needed to hear that, right? That was.
And there was no way I can tell you that.
Nope.
But those ladies, they figured out a way to tell you about it. And
Yep.
it seemed to me that they figured out a way to tell you about it for an extended period of time, so that it was indelibly impressed. In fact, those balls may still vibrate with anybody who shaved.
Yeah. Yeah. See, at least got a chuckle out of that. It's good. Yeah, it's what we're talking about. It's not a good or bad. It's just the thing. You know, we bring with us patterns of looking at the world. And I know there were times when I'd hang my head down and be all, oh my God, I can't believe who cares? You know, I don't care what you guys did. And you know, I mean, the thing is, can you do something different? Can you? You know, can you really try on something different? You know, can you reach across really and see how somebody else looks at the world and try it on from their point of view? Because only from there did I get a glimpse and just start to get a glimpse, because the door started to crack open and it was like, oh, everything I thought about the whole, you know, facade of, you know, God's gift to the world was like, it just got turned upside down. And like, it's like, no, it's not. Yeah, it's not a way to, it's not what I thought it was. But to have the eyes to see it the way the women in that class and elsewhere were trying to get me to see it, I actually had to move my assemblage point to where they were. What were they really saying? What was that about really? Like, and that's what we're talking about.
So there's four women in this class, and they all had a different assemblage point than you did. Clearly.
Yeah. I think there might have been 6 women in the class.
Okay. So I didn't remember how many, but you were the only male.
Yes.
And so, I mean, and it does take, I don't know, like you know, when you're in a group of people and you have to assemble the world in a different place, and even if that means, you know, hair clipping, you know, there has to be a communication, because you're assembling a different perspective. And, you know, sometimes it's like really hard, right, Ken? Like even with hair shavings.
You know, Vanessa, I can really relate to that, because I was thinking about a time when a bunch of people were talking to me where I thought, well, gee, I know how to be helpful in a situation. So when somebody was cooking, I'd go and start putting things away when they're in the middle of cooking. And in the way I assembled the world, I thought, oh, I know what needs to be done and I can be helpful. And it took several people just going, what did you do with that? What are you thinking? Did you pay attention to what I'm doing here? Because it never occurred to me that my definition of what's helpful had no relationship to what was actually going on or with other people. And I mean, that was just like kind of a dope slap on my forehead that, oh my gosh, just because I think something's helpful, it ain't necessarily so, you know? So, but it does take sometimes several people pointing out that thing, and then you go, oh, the way that I'm looking at something, it isn't necessarily based on anything but how I look at it. You know, it doesn't line up with somebody else. And kind of like Ken, when it was first brought to my attention, you know, I thought, well, wait a minute, I'm justified here. I've got reasons. I know why this is helpful. So it's pretty illuminating when you realize that, you know, gee, other people assemble, you know, look at the world way differently.
Hopefully illuminating enough, Terry, that we could be done with this. You can be done with Terry Way, because I
don't know. Terry, did you get a breath?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Terry, what I mean,
black out or anything, because it sounded like you're about to black out. You really didn't breathe there for a long time. I mean,
all right, I'll take a deep.
Whatever they know.
Okay.
I've been having this conversation with you for years, Terry. Years.
What happened in one of our, I think, our tank operators class? I think it was you and George that were trying to assemblage the world in a way that you guys couldn't even work together. I think you guys were having to work together in a way where I think it was cleaning the patio, and one was
Oh yeah, with the sweeping and the
Yeah.
mopping. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
one was sweeping the other way while the other one was throwing the water the opposite direction. Like
Yeah.
there was no communication going there. Like
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you've had a breath now, Terry, because I have to, I have to convey to my friends and folks on this call here that are listening that just because you sit in and you listen here, ultimately, if an assemblage point is going to be moved, it's going to be because, you decide to do something different.
Yeah.
That seems like something that gave you some amount of consternation or resistance, or am I wrong?
It absolutely did. I was.
Well, how do I talk to these folks then about that? Because we're sitting here introducing tools, and I appreciate your story, but I want them to have this in context too, that you can recite chapter and verse everything from the Office of Shaman, but when it gets right down to moving your own assemblage point, fuck no, you've been as stubborn as they come.
Yeah, that's true. I, it's it's not something I'm particularly proud of, but it is actually the case. And what I've been really fortunate to have is friends and colleagues who kept talking.
Hey, Vanessa, you were just on the Spanish version of this from here at Puerto Vallarta, right?
Oh, you guys started that tonight.
Yes, we did.
Oh, nice. So good for you.
I was.
How was that?
Well, I think that Vanessa noticed that there was a difference between how people here listen to these things and how people there do. Can you share that with the folks, Vanessa?
Well, overall, like in cultural, like I've noticed that when someone reads the Office of Shaman, there's a group of people that feel offended when they're talking to Bob, when the teacher's talking to Bob, and it's when I think about those stuff, I'm like, okay, so one, why are they offended, and two, I mean, you're reading it, right? Like, what voice do they listen to? And I've seen that, like, in culture-wise, like a Spanish-speaking person will be more open into getting okay, I'm Bob. I've been Bob. I've done a Bob or something like that, where you flip the coin and you bring it to the American or this English-speaking person, and they get so offended because how dare the teacher talk that way to Bob? I mean, what way are we looking at it? Are we looking at it as, why can't we put that thought into what we do and say, okay, yeah, you know what? We've done things like Bob. I know I've been Bob, even if we're all not perfect, like everybody has been Bob. So it's just a different way of how culture-wise we can, like, people will take something and take it on and then say, okay, I can deal with this. And on the other side, there's another big taboo for them to even like acknowledge that, people do that. I don't know. Did that make sense? Does anybody have any questions of what I just said?
Sort of did. I think you said something like Americans are pretty fixated on their singular assemblage point, looking at the world. And how dare you transgress that, you know, sort of like the Ken Kaplan story
Take
about,
themselves so freaking seriously.
yeah, that too.
I am so important. I'm mad, and so your world will end because I'm angry. I'm stomping my foot, so your world is going to end.
So there.
I had a perfect example of that this morning. A nice young man from next door. We have a condominium next door. We had made soup to give to the Diputado to give to folks that are hungry. There's a lot of people that are hungry, so we made a big bunch of soup. They came to pick it up. The stupid guy parked his SUV out in the middle of the driveway out in front of our house, and so the people next door couldn't get out of their parking. Well, the guy was all pissed off. With reason, right? He had to wait for 3 or 4 minutes, and he blew his horn twice.
Ooh.
Yeah, the world ended.
Yeah.
Mm.
Very important fella.
Yeah.
You know where he was going?
To get a newspaper.
No. He was going to get milk.
Get milk. Well,
Yeah, well, you had to go down to the Oxxo to get milk, which is kind of like a 7-Eleven.
yeah.
In Mexico, we couldn't say 7-Eleven, so we said Oxxo instead.
So your guy who was there had the audacity to interfere with his milk plan for 2 minutes?
Yeah, because he was picking up food for people who are hungry. And so, I mean, the very idea.
Yeah. Us Americans, I submit this to you guys. We're going to either find out a way that we're going to have to talk to each other and not get offended at this stuff, or look forward to more of the same old. But what we're doing here is we're showing this.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I think that we have to talk with each other. I think we have to communicate.
Yeah.
I think that we have to exchange information. Now, information cannot be exchanged unless it is in the ready state for transmission from the receiving computer to another computer, not the receiver or not the sender or the receiver, but to another computer through a similar set of signals. And we don't do that at all.
Yeah.
We say, this is my point of view, and I don't give a damn about yours.
Yeah, let me highlight that then, because it's at first glance, a maybe peculiar Western American definition of information, because as John highlighted, especially if you're looking at these definitions, by the way, these are John Lilly, neuroscientist, who thought a lot about this stuff. I mean, he really thought about this stuff. So Lilly thought about it so much, he had not only one definition of information, or some of the other terms too. But you'll notice here, I really had to think about this, what John was saying, because this definition of information actually has an active component. And that active component, which we miss or neglect, is that if you tell me something, John Worthington, it ain't information unless, or I could say it ain't communication unless that information gets in the receiving end for me, and I can then turn around and repeat that to a third person. Vice versa is true.
Yep.
Okay, it's not, and how much does that differ from, let's just say, yeah, I told him, I told her.
Yeah, it doesn't, that's not anything at all. I told her, okay?
Yeah, I told her. Yeah, but I told her, so leave me the fuck alone,
Yeah.
I told her so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you got to say it right. I told her.
Older.
I told her.
Didn't I tell you that? Yeah.
You got to get that angry angst in it, or you're not really.
Yep.
But one of my favorite American stories, really from Mexico.
What's that?
Is there was this actually happened. I swear to God, it happened a long time ago. I told the story because it was truly amazing, and it still is. Once upon a time, I witnessed a displaced American whose wife had been into a bank into the bank where we were and had deposited money the day before. And this displaced American wanted to take out some of that money so he could go buy something. And so he went to the cashier and he told her that he wanted what he wanted to do. The only thing is he didn't have the appropriate authority to do that because his wife had not made arrangements for that to take place. And so he decided that he was going to explain the situation to the cashier. And so he said, and I quote, I don't think you understand that that's my money that's in your bank, and I want to get it out so I can go spend some of it. And she said, sir, in this little shy voice, she said, sir, yes, that's true, but your wife didn't make arrangements for that. She didn't authorize you to get, and she got to about right there, and then he said, and I quote, my wife came down here and deposited my money in your bank, and I want to get it out. And it continued on that at that rate and at that level for several more rounds before the manager came from the back of the bank and grabbed this little fucker and hauled him in the back to the principal's office and set him down till he chilled out. Now, the thing is that you oftentimes see people down here from the States who are pretty much doing exactly what that nice young man did, and pretty much for the same reason. It's not because they're bad people. It's because they have no idea whatsoever about how to communicate. He just didn't have any concept of being able to communicate information to anybody. He wasn't paying attention to the information. He was paying attention to what he was saying. That wasn't information.
No, she was dealing with some aspect of reality, such as you have to be an authorized signatory to take money out of our bank or something like that.
Yeah,
that's my mom.
It's the same thing here not long ago of a nice gringo lady that had to go pay her electric bill. And so she went in to pay the electric bill at the place where you figure out how much you owe, but you can't pay there. You have to go to the cashier to do that. This nice gringo lady threw the money on the counter on the desk and tried to demand that the secretary that had helped her out on figuring out how much her bill actually was pay it for her. If she had touched a dime, she had lost her job on the spot. This lady berated this girl for 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I got lots of those stories because gringos are like that. They think they know things that they don't know. They don't know how to communicate is the problem. It's not that they're bad people. They're gringos. They're not bad. That doesn't mean that they're rotten people or anything else. It's fine. But they don't know how. We just, as a culture, we have forgotten how to communicate information. We don't exchange information. We demand that everybody listen to us, but we don't exchange information.
Yes. On behalf collectively, John Worthington of the Gringos on this call as their representative, yes, I have seen that for my very own self.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm not talking about anything that I haven't seen.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
It's sometimes embarrassing to be a gringo. I got to tell you. And it's not because they're well. It's because they're rude.
Yeah.
There's a joke, of course, here, and that is it goes kind of like this. But what do you call somebody who speaks two languages? You call them bilingual, right?
Yeah.
If they speak three languages, it would be trilingual, right? Excuse me. But if they only spoke one language, what would you call that?
I don't want to spoil your punchline, but I think it's gringo.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. You call them
Yeah.
American. That's what you call
Yeah.
them. One language. That's it. Okay. Now, is that because? Why? Because they're bad people? No, it's because they've never had anybody to challenge their information. They've never had to exchange information. We don't do that.
Do you
Ken, honest to God, we cut off our nose to spite our face in this
Yeah.
regard. We do.
Yeah. Do you, I know you're going to say this is one that you know. I mean, do you know how strange that sounds? At least to ears of like, because the first time I heard that, it was like, fuck, you know what? Yeah, I'm a lawyer. Are you kidding me? What the hell are you going to teach me about communication and exchanging information there, Worthington?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Believe me, nothing at all.
Yeah. I'm no different now. Now I look around and see, yeah, this is not a good or bad thing. This is what we do. But what we do has some limitations because what we do buys us arguments and disagreements instead of getting shit done, let's say.
No, it doesn't. It gets a black man shot in a fucking Wendy's parking lot. It has a black man choked to death on city streets in front of God and everybody in broad daylight. Yeah. It has a black man hung in a tree by City Hall in Los Angeles. That's what it does.
Yep.
No, that's not okay. Exchanging of information doesn't end up there.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I'm sorry if I sound a little preachy here. I'm not supposed to be preachy. I don't want to be preachy. That's not the idea, but that one's one that pisses me off.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
Okay. I agree. It's not. I suppose I could ask the question, well, why do we care about communication? But I think we've answered that somewhat. That if
it's not a matter of talking, it's a matter of exchanging information.
Okay.
There's a huge difference between those two ideas. I mean, anybody can fucking talk. Well, pretty much. I mean, I've heard some people who were so incoherent that they couldn't talk. But I'm not talking about that guy or even communicating about that guy or with that guy, hopefully. I'm talking to and talking with and communicating with people who hopefully who can exchange information. In other words, if I say, you know, this is something I'm thinking about, and I've considered it like this, that they would say, oh, okay, I see. How did you get to there? Why did you think that? All right, well, here's how I've thought about that, and here's how I got to it, and why I think about it this way. You know, that's an exchange of information. Is either person right? No, neither one is right. Is either person wrong? Then no, who gives a fuck about right and wrong? That's a damn dichotomy that is a waste of my time. I don't have time for that crap.
Yeah. That's right.
Well,
yeah.
Not that. I just don't like dealing with it. I'm sorry.
No, that's right on. It's right on point. Yeah, we engage in some verbal bad habits. Let's just say that hinder communication. Like
okay, Ken, I'm quite convinced. Nobody gets up in the morning and say, I'm going to state my case to the world, and the world's going to love me and deal with me no matter what. I don't think anybody gets up to do that. But I do think that on the way to work, they say, who in the fuck do you think you are that you can cut me off?
Exactly. Yep.
Well, you know, what do you mean that I cut you off? That who you? What? And on top of that, you actually think I was thinking about you?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. When I cut you off, I was scared of running over that rabbit that I thought was in front of me that I couldn't see, or some damn thing like that, right? Not this other stuff that makes sense.
Okay. Well, what do I say? I mean, yeah, I believe me. That one I've lived through years of those being offended at things. I don't know some. I guess it is an American thing.
That's how I know about it. I did the same damn thing for years and years.
Yeah.
I've been stupid. You know, I mean, you know, just because you live in New Jersey doesn't mean that you have a lock on stupid. It's okay. I've been stupid.
Yep.
I'm stupid every now and again. You know, I'm pretty regular. I'm stupid. You know, and then I look at that and I say, John, why in the fuck are you being so damn stupid right there? And I look at myself in the mirror and I say, I'll be damned if I know. And then I get to thinking about it and I say, because I'm a dumb fuck. That's pretty easy.
Okay. Well, what to do? I mean, I suppose I can say that this has something to do with maybe not taking yourself so seriously, but maybe we could say more about this than just that.
For me, what I do with it is you're right. I don't think that taking yourself seriously thing
Yeah.
is worth it.
Yeah.
That's up to me. But then the thing is that if I'm doing something dumb, what I can do is I can go and I can talk to somebody who knows something about it. And I can say, hey, you know something about this thing here. Can you tell me anything about the thing so I'm not being so dumb? And you know what happens most of the time is they'll say, yeah, we were that's how I learned it to do it. Well, hell's bells. And I find out that I'm not as stupid as I thought I was. It was just I was uneducated.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to be uneducated every now and then, don't they?
Yep.
I mean, I don't think anybody was born educated.
Nope.
Well, I mean, maybe there's some. But Terry maybe, but I wasn't. You know, of course, I've lived out in the country, so who knows?
Yeah. It is certainly helpful to not take yourself seriously and then plug in the places where you miss things, but you gotta come to do that.
I really rather enjoy watching somebody do something like leave all the shaving there in the sink, and then the ladies come and puke into it and come back out and say, what the is that there? The hell are you talking about to me, bitch? I thought that was fun.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, I noticed that you weren't impressed by that.
No, I really was. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Well,
they just bitched about that for, I think it went on for a week or more, didn't it?
yeah, I did. Yeah.
He's still bitching with you about that.
Yep. I needed to hear it, and I needed to hear it, and I needed to have it. Yeah, I needed to hear it. What can I say? I mean, I suppose I could say that I could have heard it sooner, but whatever.
You still need to hear it?
Pardon?
You still need to hear it?
No, I don't need to hear it. Thank you.
You need to tell Ellen because she's not sure.
Yeah. To put the story in perspective for those listening, Ellen was at the class, and she was the first one that I'm going to say it like this. This is going to sound funny, but because it didn't seem that way to me. She first one that paid me the courtesy, the caring to sit my ass down and tell me why that thing that I did was not something that was going to be tolerated.
I recall she didn't really leave an awful lot of room for questioning.
No, she did not. Yeah, she's pretty effective.
She went right to the point, did she?
Yep.
That's how I remember it. But
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, was it really that way?
Yeah. He put some oomph, some intent behind that. But what can I say to these folks listening, that are in relationships and running their own lives and businesses, that kind of oomph behind a communication is, let's just say it's like the energy behind making sure that what you as the person launching that communication, that it has its maximum ability to reach the place where you want it to reach. Because for me, I told him, I kind of told him when we were passing the other day. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the kind of communication where a parent catches a kid doing something that's dangerous for the kid. You make sure that shit sticks right there.
Yeah, I don't remember that she actually told you to wait till you get you home or anything, but it was along those lines, right?
Say it again?
I don't think she actually said, wait till I get you home.
No, she did not. But it was, yeah.
And were you able to tell other young men not to leave their shaving hairs in the sink?
Elise, I'm not sure that very thing has happened, but I seem to have a affinity for now having opportunities that seem to come to my past to share those very words, which is to say that either there's an abundance of immature disrespect for men, or as Paul said earlier, through some force of, the other, whatever you want to call it, it just seems to, be put in my path that, that I'm going to deal with stuff like this.
Maybe it's that you keep running into the same wall.
Ooh.
Yikes. I think that's to be considered. I think, yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I think until till that lesson is converted into, what can I call it, knowledge, then there seems to be constant reminders. Make sense?
Yeah, I bet Maria doesn't have to say anything to you about sinks.
So this is helpful in a business in what way? In terms of it being a communication, being a tool here. How does that work actually, Kim?
Business, the business is an entity that has demands. There are things that have to be done. And then there are people who have their own ways of looking at things and interpreting things. And then there are people whose responsibility is to make sure that everybody actually does the thing that needs to be done. Those, I'd call those people the managers and business leaders or owners or whatever you want to. And here is where communication, I think, is particularly important, because if you don't nip it in the bud, then you've just grown a series of weeds in your business that could be pretty freaking devastating. Because if you got to think about, well, here's it for me. All the places in my businesses where I didn't say something that I saw because, well, let's just say I was being a nice guy, and you all like Ken Kaplan, right? So why would I say that? Well, all of those places, I will tell you, were places where I fucked myself, where I wove or weaved or sewed, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, into my business, that very bad behavior. I agreed with it. What is it? What's that
Like
Leonardo da Vinci quote? What's that? What did he say again?
He who does not, how does it say?
Oppose?
Oppose, that's the one. He who does not oppose evil commands it to be done. Is how it goes.
Yeah. So I think what that is that keeping your mouth shut at times is the equivalent of agreeing with things.
It's not the equivalent. That's what it is.
It is. Okay.
It's not an equivalency. It's
that. Yeah, I agree. It is. Well, that puts a new spin on things here. And us, and I'd love to hear from who else has got something here to share.
You know who has to deal with that really a lot is Paul. Because he has to present some really serious solutions to people, and they're not cheap, and they're not easy to. It's not something that he wiggles his nose and it's there in the morning. It requires training and consideration, all kinds of stuff. Paul actually knows a whole lot about this communication of information idea.
Oh, it's Paul to come on. Paul Grenshi is a co-founder of a company called Red Key Solutions, a technology company. I think you're out there, Paul.
You're here. Yeah. Hey, Ken. Hey, John. Yeah, you're right about that, John. And actually the hardest part for me to learn, or maybe the part that I was being stubborn about, is that actual communication demands something. It asks the person on the receiving end to process what was communicated and respond. And, to your point, in business, that response and the quality of that response is basically my gross margin. So, yeah, I got to pay attention. And, I kind of fucked around with that for a number of years. Much like Ken, I was rather proud of my self-assessed powers of communication. I use big words and have cogent logical arguments. Therefore, I communicate. However, Ken, I think we know that's not very true.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So I had to have a new way of talking about it.
Why isn't that true?
Big words, that is.
Yeah.
Arguments.
Why isn't that true? That cogent and I mean, what's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, on the face of it, it sounds like I made an excellent argument right there for a good definition of communication. Problem is that on the other side of communication is a human, and it's not, logic is far from the only facility we have to communicate with. And I found that paying attention to who I was talking to, where they were, and where I needed them to be at the end of the communication wasn't being included. I wasn't thinking about those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cost me a fair amount of money. I don't know about you, Ken.
Yeah.
But when you tell somebody something, you don't find out if they actually understood, then that doesn't mean that doesn't mean because they were sitting there, that mean they heard anything, right?
Indeed, it was always very convenient for me to assume that because somebody had heard my words, that the communication had occurred. But the way you just phrased it, which is to check, was the part that I was probably either too lazy or too arrogant. I don't know. One of those, some combination of those.
Too smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always too smart.
Yeah. I was too smart until I learned I really wasn't. So yeah, important topic for business, important topic for relationships.
Okay. Does that ever pop up in sales exchanges?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I haven't met too many prospects that don't think they're pretty smart and pretty good at communicating. So yes, if we slow down enough to make sure that the conversation's actually a communication, some people get annoyed and other people perk up and pay attention. And I like the folks that pay attention.
I can see why.
Yeah.
The ones that get annoyed are pains in the asses.
Yeah.
Right. That was me.
No.
For too long, right? So I understand what they're doing there.
Well,
Yeah.
I check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Usually, I find out the third or fourth or fifth question into trying to figure out what somebody said, whether they're gonna dig their heels in and get all angry at you, just asking them to explain or.
Well, yeah, Ken, talking about a test, you're gonna find out why somebody's talking to you if you do that.
Well, I look at it a different way. I look at it from this standpoint. If I got to get to that fifth question, I'm not sure I want to talk to them.
Yeah, that's sensitive. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. In other words, if I'm trying to communicate and I'm saying, okay, I don't understand what you're explaining here. Can you? What I don't understand is this thing.
Right to do that? What right do you have to ask me that? And then yeah.
Whatever, or they're going to answer something else, or they're going to tell me about their summer vacation or something. It's like, okay, that's interesting and so all that stuff, but I don't want to. That's not what we're talking about. So can I be excused?
Yeah, here's one that comes up.
I'll see you then. Bye.
I've seen you do this one. I've seen other people do this one, and that is some behavior, because the words are never the thing. You look at what the person does and you'll ask them something like, what's that thing you do? Which really cuts to the chase, because let's face it, if you pay attention, everybody can see that there's a thing being done, but the audacity to ask they sometimes think, but they're either going to take a step and say, oh, yeah. Or maybe they say, what are you seeing? How does that look to you? Which I'm interested at that point. The part where it gets uninteresting is I don't do that. That's not it. It's not me.
That's fantastic. Yeah, is that Mike Seabrook that's on there?
Hold on. I'm going to unmute Mike. Mike.
What's going on?
Oh, what's happening, Mike? How you doing there, buddy?
Good. How you guys doing?
Well, I think maybe John wants to ask you something, but how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. Yeah, good to see you. Where are you? Where are you coming from?
I'm in Pennsylvania right now. I'm at a test lab for some work testing. So it's interesting hearing you guys talk about communication and how powerful it is and where you can easily make mistakes, because I would say I'm back here doing testing because we made a mistake in communication the first go around.
Wow.
It's an expensive mistake.
Ain't it though?
It is. It definitely is. So, when Paul, you were saying it costs you gross margins, I know what you mean.
It does it.
Yep.
Every exchange is like that, and does the same damn thing in your relationships with an old lady or with a kid. It's the same stuff.
For sure.
It just costs. Okay, so anyway, let me see who else was on there. I wanted to talk to for a second. Oh, Pat Jones, how are you doing with this particular concept? Because I know that you struggle with this sometimes, right? This communication, this exchange of information thing.
Yeah, it's a pretty big struggle sometimes.
Fair enough.
Say least.
Take it easy on yourself. Go ahead.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, but you know what? It's not a bad thing, nothing like that.
Nope.
It's like, look, this is the thing that you're struggling with. It's okay for you to fuck up something and for somebody to come around and say, you know what, I don't understand what the hell you're talking about, Pat Jones. It's okay if they do that, and it's okay for you to say, well, slow down, boys and girls. I have no idea what you just said. You got to say it again for me because I'm an old guy and I'm slow as molasses in January. So tell me again. It's fine. You have the right to do that if you want to, Pat. Well, you do anyway.
You do. I'll answer for Pat because yes.
Is Greg still on too, or did Greg leave? Greg, you didn't.
Let's see. I think Greg's here.
Okay.
Whoops. Let's see. Where'd you go, Greg? I saw you.
I know for sure that Greg has.
Yeah, Greg's here.
Hey, Greg.
I know this right.
Hold on, Greg. I've got to mute some more things. I don't know who that is, but anyway. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Ken.
I think John's asking you that, or maybe making a statement that this is probably something. Wait, who's the most talking? Give me a second, guys.
That's Greg's neighbors. That's my other neighbor, Kathy. I think it's Greg's background noise.
Okay, let's get Greg having fun.
Greg, no more tequila for the
All right.
neighbors. Okay?
I went around the corner. I think we're safe here.
Okay, yeah, you can't give
Sorry,
people
John.
tequila. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, John said, no more
Yeah.
Okay, I know.
Fireball around here.
Greg, from what you were saying the other night, this has got to be something that is front and center every freaking day on what you're trying to do to get this business up and running, right? The communication of information.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, then hopefully as we look into this a little bit more over the next time we get together, get more into the nuts and bolts or into the weeds, or whatever you want to call it, of this idea, we can give you some ideas of how to actually get this done. So you guys that are having to deal with the uneducated of the world that comes and that gravitate to your particular business, that it gives you a way to talk to them so that you can put them to work. that's really something that I'm interested in doing on this particular segment here for Ken and Paul and Vanessa and so on.
That would definitely be beneficial. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I know it
Absolutely.
is. So that's, excuse me for a little bit for doing a little bit of you know,
Con-
I gotta spank somebody here a little bit. So, you know, this is the reason why we have these things, right, guys? Because of people like Greg need the help, and that's the reason why we want to give him the help so he can get this done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that, can we?
Yep. That is something. Absolutely. Yeah. Here. If we've been down the road and we've learned something, why not share it?
Right.
Yeah. It's a good thing. That's what we're doing here.
Okay, so let's see if we can do it from this perspective. Communication being an exchange of information, okay, then how in the hell do we define information, Ken?
Well, interesting, because how do we define it?
How does somebody like Paul have to identify information? Because Paul has to have precise information.
Yep.
In order to make these programs or this, I don't know, whatever he's
okay.
For a business, right?
Okay, so
yourself, you can't let Paul Ken speak for you.
Yeah, so I'll answer for Paul as just by making an assumption that he has to deal with what's actually going on. There's a client there. They have a technology solution and they need something. They actually need to solve for something.
But they're going to say that they have it solved.
They'll say, yeah. Well, they will say that. That's true.
Okay, that's what people come when they come to you. They say, "Okay, this is the solution that I need," right? Whether they need that solution or not.
Yes, they will say that. As a corporate lawyer, they will often say they need something that is different than what I observe is the critical missing piece.
You guys are 100% on target so far. Keep going.
Yeah. So, but this, so is that your question, John? Is you're teasing out like what is information?
Yeah, I'm looking for like for Paul. He's got to have a set definition of information that he has that criteria has to be met every time there's a communication with a client. That there has to be information that's exchanged, and that information has to be defined as such. The same thing is true for Ralph, although Paul's is more defined perhaps, but Ralph has to have the same set of ideas. I know that he does. He has to be able to say, okay, when you serve a table, you're going to do this, you're going to say this, you're going to write it down this way, you're going to take it to the cook like this, you're going to be this way about it, you're going to clean up when it's done like this, you're going to put it away like that, and I don't want to hear you.
And all of those components are information.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the thing is that from Ralph's perspective, that information falls more into a, shall we say, an emotional or a feeling or a color of something he wants done. For Paul, it's not. For Paul, it's cold, hard. This is the facts, Jack.
Well, yeah, I know what happens, right? I've been doing this for a while, so.
Ooh.
I know.
Yeah, but why would you make that distinction between that? Is it because one is, kind of more of a, a technological, and the other one's more artistic, or what's? In
other words, look, Monet painted yellow daisies, didn't he?
Yep, he did.
Well, if you want to call dots, yellow dots from the end of a paintbrush painting daisies, okay, cool. But that's what it was.
Okay.
Okay. Is that information? Yeah, it is. But what's the actual information? That he can make you think about yellow daisies and see yellow daisies if they're there or not. He can just give you the impression of them being yellow daisies.
Yep.
Okay, that's not really information like that. Well, it is, but it's not cold hard information like Paul does.
Yeah, it's not.
Or even like a corporate lawyer might do. But I dare say that the corporate lawyer might have a little more leeway in terms of romantic ideas, or as well, let's say it that way, than what Paul would, because Paul's dealing with computers and what the fuck they do. You're dealing with what people want, and God knows what that gets real romantic there.
Okay, fair enough. I see that point. Yeah, that's why I'd asked. Okay. Well then, tomorrow we'll talk about communication some more. We'll talk about some ways and some tips and things you can do to take advantage of this tool. How's that sound?
That sounds like a wonderful deal.
Yeah.
You should do that. Ken. You know what?
Okay.
You're amazingly qualified to do just exactly that.
Okay. Well, thanks then, everybody, for hanging out tonight. What do you say we see you tomorrow then, unless there are any questions, comments? Later.
Night.
Good night, Ken.
Night all.
Night,
Night.
everybody.
Good night.